Hi everyone, this is Vin, Nonsense Whisky, live again on this is a lovely Wednesday for me. I usually go Wednesdays, which is a bit of a habit I'm achieving now, so maybe this is good for everybody, we'll see. But you might notice a little slight change in room. I've got my Christmas tree up in the lounge. I'm actually downstairs now instead of in my study because I've gone live a little bit later today, so my wife's trying to catch some sleep. So I'm going to try and keep my voice down a little bit. Hopefully I'm not going to annoy her too much, but we'll see. Let's say hello to a few people that are in. We've got Prestige Liquids WW. It's Andrew. He's over in Australia, so good morning to you, buddy. Whiskey Geek and Whiskey Friends as well. They're both other channels as well as Prestige, so do go and check them out if you're watching this on the replay. Sherry Malt Drams, nice to see you again, dude. You were just in Phil's stream. Tony Evans as well. Hello, hello, hello. Well, today I'm just going to get him straight in. We've got a special guest today. You might have seen him before. You might not have seen him for a while, but you definitely would have seen him. It's Ben, aka Dram a Day.
Good evening. Good evening. Good morning to our Australian friends.
Yeah, definitely. Good morning to them. Bless them. It's good that they can catch it. To be fair, we were just talking a second ago. How far ahead are you, Andy? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, so I thought I'd get Ben on today because I've had this bottle, which is we'll go into later. I've got my big light with me, so you probably can't even see that. But I've had this bottle for probably getting on for a couple of years now. Is that right, Ben?
Yeah, because it was at the end of the challenge. So yeah, we're pushing. Well, it'll be 2 years in January.
It's January, right? That was
the
finale of the.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. And you've got more than I have because, believe it or not, I never actually got myself a bottle of it.
I know that's a real shame that is, but I did some. So you've got some there, haven't you?
I do, yeah, and it is ready and raring to go.
Yeah, I've got mine. Well, the last of it because I had some sediment. I've been leaving it so long. I had some sediment in there, so I've just decanted the last of it out, and I've got a Scotch Test Dummy coin protecting it. But we'll go into that a little bit later. But Ben, why don't you tell us about your challenge a couple of years ago? If people don't know, they should know. But if they don't know, tell us what you did and why you did it.
Yeah, I should bloody well hope they do. So it was Burns Night 2016 to Burns Night 2017. I set up the Dram a Day YouTube channel, and it started off as a personal challenge to see whether I could do it, and then I thought, right, if I do it for charity, then it forces me to continue rather than just giving up. So every day for a year, across a leap year as well, so it was 366 days, I produced a short whiskey history and review video of a different distillery or whiskey brand across the course of a year. So it was 366 different distilleries. It wasn't like a Glenmorangie 10 and La Santa and that. It was just aiming to be a bit of a kind of guidebook in video form of as many distilleries as I could possibly cover from around the world, and brands as well. I did cheat slightly in that, for example, instead of just doing Bruichladdich, I did Bruichladdich and Octomore as a separate video and Port Charlotte as a separate video, but I had to get to 366 one way or the other. So I started off, I had about probably 40 or so miniatures and bottles that I already had that set me off up and running, and basically took to social media and said, look, this is what I want to do. I'm doing it for charity. It was the Children's Heart Surgery Fund based in Leeds that was because of a good friend of my daughter had congenital heart defects, and I wanted to pick a charity that was, for want of a better phrase, close to my heart, which was, daughter's best friend. And basically said to people, look, this is what I want to do. I only need 25 mil because I'm going to do the equivalent of a shot every day. Obviously, I don't want to kill myself. Although on the first video, when I did the rules, I did actually say that I was going to do 25 CL, to which some people went, pardon, what? You really are going to kill yourself? So yeah, so it was 25 mil, and I wanted to do just what you'd call like the bog standard of each brand. So I wasn't looking for anything particularly expensive. It was literally, right, Glenfiddich 12, Glenmorangie 10, Bell's 8-year-old, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. And if people could donate either a dram or money to the charity, drams would get me going. So amazingly, people took up on it. I got sent little miniatures in the post every now and again, and little packages of all sorts of stuff. I then had to compile a list of what I had and sort of what I needed and what was missing. There's a guy down in London called Andrew Butler, or Andrew AP Butler, who sent me, I think he sent me in total, it was over 100. I think it was about 127 samples.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just mind-blowing, his generosity. So yeah, it was, I ended up getting all the way through the challenge on the last day. So we did, I think Burns Night was on a Tuesday. And that weekend we did a finale where I did the final 3 drams live in York in a hotel. A load of people came up and joined me. We did a big auction where we got loads of kind of rare bottles and other bits and pieces to sell off. Cask end from Buffalo Trace and all sorts of crazy stuff. So in total, I raised £7,000 for charity, which I was well chuffed with. The aim was to get to 5. Didn't really think I'd get that far, to be honest, but it was a bit of a finger in the air moment, and yeah, just blew through it. So the aim was then to carry on, maybe not do 1 a day, but maybe get to 500 over the course of another year. So it would have been about on average 2 or 3 a week, and get that £7,000 to £10,000. But if you go to my YouTube channel now, you'll probably see that I think the last video I did was number 372. And that was nearly 2 years ago. So it kind of tailed off, mainly because in the end of February of that year, so literally 2 months after I finished a dram a day, I then got a job with Gordon and MacPhail. And that took over my life. You know, I had not just the start of the job and all the induction and everything like that, but from talking about whiskey on a daily basis on a video, I was then talking about whiskey on a daily basis as my job. And it's an absolutely amazing job and an amazing company to work for, but it's totally precluded me, not from them saying, we don't want you to do it. It's more just the time and everything else that I've got to be able to carry on doing the video. So I have a pile, because I know particularly Andrew O.P. Butler has the odd comment every now and again going, are you going to upload a video? I have a box with samples and miniatures down on this shelf that stare at me and make me feel guilty every time I walk past them. So the aim is ultimately to get to 500. It just might take me quite a long time to get there, but I will do eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like I've been really enjoying your videos kind of post a dram a day, because it was the ones that you did during the challenge were absolutely brilliant, because they weren't just like little 5-minute videos like I do. Even they were properly researched 15-minute videos.
You say properly researched, literally Google for about 20 minutes before I started filming, but it was more researched than just going straight into it blind, admittedly.
Yeah, but I still think you did a really good job of it all. And although there was a couple of dicey moments where you had like a quarter to midnight upload, but you didn't miss a day, did you?
No, I don't think I did. I might have had literally one where it was like 2 minutes past midnight, because I hadn't even yet twigged, or I don't think I'd got to the stage where I could schedule video uploads, or I couldn't do it on my iPad because the YouTube app on iPhones and iPads is absolutely terrible. Yeah. So I couldn't schedule them. So it was literally kind of, if I'd forgotten or if it was getting late, I'd have to dive on and get it uploaded. It forced me to actually upgrade to broadband because it was taking me so long to upload on dial-up. Yeah, I don't think, if I did miss a day, it was literally by 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think, well, you did amazingly well at it. That actually leads me on, because we were talking about the money you raised before. I'd just like to say I did try to demonetize the video, but I think I only disabled the ads. And I think Super Chat's still available. If you are watching this, please don't use the Super Chat button. If you are tempted to donate any money, what I would like you to do is go into the description below, find the link to Ben's charity page, and donate some money there. And if you do that, then I think that'd be brilliant. I'll be checking to see if anybody does, and I might even pick out of the people that do go over there and donate some money. I might even pick to send a prize to, nothing major, maybe a badge or something like that. But yeah, so if you are thinking about super chatting, then please go and check out that description link and do that instead. But yeah, so before you got your job at Gordon MacPhail, you were Oddbins, right?
Oh, way back in the day.
Oh,
yeah. Oddbins was what got me into drinks and whiskey. So I'd always been interested in whiskey, because when I was about I think it was about 11 or 12, my dad decided he was going through a bit of a midlife crisis, and he decided he was going to collect something. And it was kind of like either sports cars or whiskey. And fortunately, he said whiskey. So as a kid, it used to be birthday, Christmas, Father's Day, get him a bottle of whiskey that he's not had. And then you start to find out about all the different ones that are out there because you've had everything, or you've bought everything on a supermarket shelf, and then it's like, oh, he's not had this, and there's that one. And he always said he wanted to collect single malt Scotch. He barely drinks. So I've still got a load of bottles lying around. They're actually, believe it or not, my parents are living with us at the moment, temporarily. So I've got bottles of his that have been sat in the cupboard for donkey's years. That is like, well, don't open it. We'll pay for the kids' education with it. So I already had that kind of interest in the fact that it was quite a convoluted, complex market, and there were certain things on labels that would make it sound more interesting than it actually was, or there were blended whiskies that were sounding like single malts and all this lot. So I went to university in Newcastle, and the aim was to become a screenwriter, but I had to pay the rent, so I got a part-time job with Oddbins. And if anybody has worked for Oddbins, you'll know that it's a job that basically gets its claws into you and you never leave. And I'm still mates with people that I used to work with who are still in the drinks industry in one form or another. The amount of people that I see in my job with Gordon MacPhail who own shops or work as ambassadors or marketing or anything like that, and they all started at Oddbins. It's such an incestuous company, it's crazy. But that was what got me into whiskey. That was the one where we used to do whiskey tastings, and I'd end up hosting them. They had some fantastic ranges, and that got me the bug. And the screenwriting side disappeared, and it was all about drinks. So I went from there to the whiskey shop chain, was manager for them, managed the shop at York, and then did a little bit of a stint with Diageo, which was, to be honest, pretty awful. Diageo was not a company that was a fit for me. It was, it's got some amazing brands, but it's such a mega corporation that it just wasn't fun to work there. So I took a bit of a break, and that was partly the reason for doing a Dram a day. Was I'd been out of working directly with drinks. I was in a role that was dealing with pubs, but it wasn't dealing with drinks brands. And I wanted to get back into just talking about it and reading about it and finding out more about it. So a Dram a day was a way for me to kind of do my day job and then come home and spend half an hour, 45 minutes every night, doing a bit of research, finding out about all the brands and the history behind it and everything like that, and all those little nuggets of information that I thought was interesting, and then do the video, upload it, and carry on as we were. So it was, I have always been drinks, and I'm incredibly lucky to be where I am. But I genuinely think that if I hadn't done a Dram a day, I wouldn't be working for Gordon MacPhail now, just because of the contacts that I'd made and the people that I met, and the commitment I suppose I'd already shown when I went for the interview was like, well, I'm not working with whiskey, but I'm doing this off my own back. So it's kind of proven that I'm into it. So yeah, definitely. And I'd say that to people that are watching in terms of, if you're not working in the whiskey industry, but you want to do stuff off your own back, if you can. And I know it can be costly, but, I know a couple of ambassadors that have got jobs recently that have done a bit of, I suppose you call it volunteer work, but they've ran some tables at whiskey shows. They've got chatting to other ambassadors and said, look, if you need somebody to cover, I know about your brands, I know about this, I'm doing YouTube videos or I'm doing podcasts or whatever. And that gets your foot in the door rather than just, I wish I could be a whiskey ambassador and applying for stuff. It's if you've got that extra little bit where you can turn around and say, I've got this channel, or I'm doing this podcast, or I've done these shows, just, helping out. That's the way that you can get in, because it's a fantastic industry to work in. It's absolutely fantastic. And everybody wants to do it because it sounds ace and it sounds like it's fun and you get pissed every day and all that lot. And partly true. But if you can put a little bit of effort in off your own back, it really goes a long way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't start my channel to kind of get into the industry per se. I started mine because I don't have any kind of friends locally that are into whiskey, so I don't really have like an outlet for all the things that I'm trying to learn. So I was like, I'm going to just do this. But it's like you say, since I've started doing this, I've made so many new friends, and I'm kind of talking to a lot of brand ambassadors now for content for the channel. But who knows where that will lead eventually? You know, it's I haven't had any job offers yet, but maybe I will one day. We'll see.
You never know. You never know, mate. And it's, you've had a lot of fun. You've clearly had a lot of fun while you've been like doing all these videos. And we've met up in the whiskey show down in London, if you can remember it, because you might have had one or two at the time. But
the first year's one, when I met you for the first time properly face to face. So off my tree by the time I got home. I went home with my pal on the train, and he had to wake me up at my stop. So if I'd have been on my own, I'd have been boned. But this year I was much better.
Really? Yeah. Well, you should have seen yourself from the other side, mate. Other side of the table. It was like
upright at least.
But it's a rookie mistake. That first time you go to a whiskey show.
Yeah.
Easily done though.
That the London one is just massive. I've been to a few local ones before that, but the London one was so massive. And even as far back as last year, I refused to use the spit buckets. Because I was like, I'm not doing that. That's such a waste of whiskey. But this year, I've learnt my lesson, and it's like if you're not enjoying something, or if you think I'm even if it's not just amazing, just try it, enjoy it, and just chin it off. Because you get through so much otherwise.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The spittoons are there for a reason, and there is so much that there is to try at the whiskey show that you can't get through it all. Even if you were there all weekend, they could put that show on for a week, and you could have a week pass, and you probably still wouldn't get through everything and remember it. You have to. Unfortunately, you've got to be pretty sensible and use those spittoons and make the most of it.
Yeah, big time. And I'm fortunate enough to blag myself into a trade pass, which I still feel like I'm thieving that somehow. But I really should pay them back by buying a day ticket to the Sunday as well. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. I didn't realise until I'd gone to the show in a working capacity that trade passes were also for. They were applicable to like bloggers and vloggers and things like that. So I'm looking at all this paperwork, and I was like, oh crap, I could have been here for the past 2 years for free. Damn it. So if you didn't know, if there's like some other tubers out there that are kind of like, oh, it'd be great to go to the whiskey show and stuff. If you put an application in and you've got a channel and it's getting some decent views, there's a good chance that you'll get some tickets. You'll be able to blag it in. Don't feel guilty, mate. You put the work in. It's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, so this year, hopefully they're not watching, but I don't think they care anyway too much, because it's more about getting rid of stock. But this year I managed to get my friend in as my my videographer, and they were just like, yeah, bring him on, it's fine. So he walked around all day with a little. I don't know if you met him. He was by my side for the day. So
I think he was holding you up. Yeah.
Well, one of the last things I remember was finally finding you, because I'd come to find you like 3 times and you'd not been there. There was a lad there. I can't remember his name now, but he gave me something from like the 1960s, and I was like, oh, brilliant! Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks.
Necked it back with not a thought.
I know, it's bad, and that's the problem with it all. But it's it's just so big. It's a bit I live in a city in the Midlands, but London is just so massive that I get a bit blinded by it all when I go down. Yeah. Shall we talk about the whiskey that we've got?
Yes, let's.
Because I think this is brilliant. I was so impressed when you announced this thing. I was so impressed that you'd managed to get a bottle with your logo on it, and I bet you were as well, to be fair. But I was going to tell them about it, but why don't you tell the guys about what this is?
Yeah, so I think it was about October, November time. So it was about 3 months before the challenge was supposed to end. And all of a sudden I got this email just out of the blue from a guy called Adrian, who worked at Claxton's, who said, I work for this whiskey bottling company. We're based near you, just outside York. I've seen your challenge. I really like it. We're relatively new, and would you be interested in getting together and doing a bottling? So I was like, yeah, too bloody right. So met up with him, and so Claxton's they're based. I think they're now based in Ripon, but at the time they were by Beverley Racecourse. But they had an office in the centre of York. and they're family owned. The basis of the company is essentially, it was two friends who had a massive whiskey collection that they realised that they were never going to actually kind of be able to drink the whole lot. But they had a cask as well, so they thought, well, we're not gonna get through it. Let's actually look at bottling it and selling it on. But they had some contacts and kind of built a cask purchasing business, which is going now. So he basically had. Originally, it was like, right, I've got potentially a couple of casks and I can give you some samples and you can basically pick the one. But a few things have fallen through. Some of the casks weren't ready, that sort of thing. So he eventually turned around and said, look, basically, it's going to be this one. It's going to be this Ardmore 8-year-old. But he gave me a sample of it and it was like, mate, that is absolutely banging. I don't have a problem with not being able to pick one. So we agreed that he was going to put my logo on the label. So that is PowerPoint at its finest.
Yeah.
Because I've got no idea how to use Photoshop. So that is literally PowerPoint and emailing it him across. And it was only for sale through Gauntleys in Nottingham. They had exclusivity on it. I think there was it 55 bottles in total. So it was. I don't think it wasn't a single cask. It was like a part cask that they'd got. But it was at cask strength, so it's 55.1%. I have a feeling that they didn't sell all of them, because if you go onto Gauntleys, and to be honest, I checked this about a year ago, but I was looking for it because I never actually bought a bottle myself. I never got a bottle, never got given one. So I had tried it a few times, and for one reason or another, and finances and all that lot, never actually bought myself a bottle. So I don't even have an empty, but I think there is somebody that might be sending me an empty. Not you, I haven't asked you, but there is somebody that said they're going to send me an empty. So at least I've got that for posterity. But I don't think they sold through all of them, and I have a feeling they relabeled it because Gauntleys were listing an Ardmore 8-year-old in a Lefroy cask. So they'd either got the rest, or they basically went, this isn't selling. It's 6 months since he's done a dram a day. That's not going to mean anything. We'll relabel it and we'll just sell it through that way. I don't know. I might be doing them in disservice. So there may be some out in the wild. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But the bottling through Gauntleys, basically all the profits Claxton has donated half went to a dram a day, and then Gauntleys have their own charity, which is, I think, after the daughter of the owner, who had died quite tragically. So it was split half and half for these charities. But, I was thrilled, for somebody to turn around and go, do you want to do a bottling? I've kept in touch with Claxton's. They're doing a really good job. They're going strong. They've got some fantastic releases out. They're all single cask, all cask strength, and their quality is absolutely phenomenal. The bottle is definitely eye-catching as well. And if you don't want to drop that on your toes either, that will do some serious damage.
No, it's a bit of a unit, this thing.
It is.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, the only downside of it, I love it, but when I put it into my cabinet, it doesn't fit with everything else.
No.
It goes in the nice nooks, but I absolutely love this thing, and I mean I bought it to support you and your charity, and it just happened to be good.
Yeah,
which I thought was really nice. It's because it's an 8-year-old whiskey, isn't it? But I think I bought it for just over 50.
I think it was about 55 quid anyway. And it's been, I don't know if it's fully matured or whether it's finished in ex Lefroy casks. So that's always a good thing as well.
Yeah, it doesn't say on here specifically, but I think the reason why I didn't mind spending that sort of money, because like you say, it's expensive for an 8-year-old, but all the profits went to charity, and that's the important bit, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was something daft like 25 quid of that was going to charity. So it was kind of like, well, fair enough. I can't really argue with that.
No, absolutely not. But I just this was the funny thing about this whiskey was that when I bought it, I must have been doing my channel for probably 6 months by then. No, not even that. Maybe 2 or 3 months. It was so early. Oh, and I should say as well, I actually did do a live stream with Ben two years ago.
You did,
Last
you
week.
did, yeah. And I completely put my foot in it by using your full name rather than your artistic pseudonym.
Oh well, there you go.
literally within 5 minutes, you were like, I'd prefer to be called this. I was like, oh, shit, sorry, mate.
Oh, I forgot about that. Now I've directed
Yeah.
everybody there, but never mind. Yeah, I've got a bit of a peculiar surname, so I just abbreviate it to the PF. But and also it makes me very easy to find on the internet when people know it all. But never mind, it gets out. It gets out. But yeah, so it wasn't that much into it. But I didn't like peated whiskey back then.
Right.
So when I found out it was like finished in Lefroy cask, I was like, oh bloody hell, I'm going to hate this thing, but I'll pay the money anyway. And actually, I really enjoyed it, and that was when it first dawned on me that I might actually start to like peated whiskey. And now I love it. By the way, I can't get enough of the stuff.
Yeah.
But I did the Bristol Festival with the Dram team guys, and and Claxtons were next to us, and I didn't get to try any of their stuff all day because I was manning a different stand. And I was looking at them, all these bottles lined up in a row like this, and I was like, and they had some amazing stuff there. But then towards the end, they came over with I can't remember what it was, like some 26-year-old Auchentoshan, I think. Yeah. Hey, do you want to try this? And I was like, yes, get it in my glass. And it was incredible. Yeah, I really should reach out to them and see what they've got going, because they do some amazing stuff, and I'd love to give them a bit of exposure. I should also say as well, thanks very much to Caskmate for the super chat. Unfortunately, I guess he didn't catch my what I said earlier, but any super chats I get, I will forward on to Ben's charity. And if you are watching this now and didn't catch my comment earlier, if you are thinking about giving a super chat, instead, please go into the description below and click the link for Ben's Just Giving page for the charity that he did his challenge for, and donate there instead, because it will go to a much better cause than into my channel for definite. So this whiskey then, what do you think about it?
I'd forgotten how sweet it was. It's I'm in my garage. This is my new studio, is my garage, and it's a little bit chilly in here. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming out of my mouth, but it's on the chilled side. So this is kind of lightly chilled, but the peat is coming through. But I'd completely forgotten about there's like a sweet sherbet feel to it that I absolutely loved, and I think that's the Lefroy element coming through, is a sweet peat that's there, but there's a lovely spiciness, which is I think the youth of the Ardmore. There's a definite zing, but it's not quite citrusy. But there is a real kind of effervescence to it that's youthful, but then this lovely kind of sweet. It's almost creamy. It's kind of creamy and sherbety as well, but it's really well balanced. I've not put any water in this, and it drinks absolutely brilliantly without water. I've got a vague recollection of when I was trying it on the video as the kind of advert for this is what's going to be coming out, please buy it. I've got a recollection of putting water in and any more than a couple of drops, and it was actually doing it a disservice. Yeah. Because I think just neat on its own, it's brilliantly well balanced. And arguably, I wouldn't have said it was an 8-year-old. I think if I was trying this blind, which I always try and do when I'm drinking whiskey, is like, okay, if I was trying this blind, what would I think it was? And if it's not what I think it would be, then that's a good thing, because it's doing something slightly different. I would have picked this at 10, maybe 12. I think because of that creaminess that's there, it gives it a bit more depth that belies its age. But yeah, it was. I think it's a fantastic whiskey. It is one, I think, that it's, if you're not too sure about peated whiskey, or you don't like the really heavily peated stuff, you don't like an Ardbeg, you don't like a Lefroy, you don't even want to touch something like an Octomore. This has enough complexity and depth with a smokiness that's not too overpowering. So I think it's still brilliant. I still really like it.
I mean, for me, I'm a big fan of the Ardmore Legacy. Very, very, very cheap whiskey that doesn't taste that cheap, I think, in my opinion. So I kind of thought that although that's lightly peated, this is much heavier peated. It's not overpowering in any way, like you said. and I guess they could have gone higher ABV. Maybe they are not. You know, is it naturally ABV'd or?
It's supposedly all of them are natural ABV. They don't do anything to it at all.
But I think that must have just been lucky for them then, because it's such a perfect ABV. Any higher, I think it would just be a bit of a.
Yeah, if we were looking at sort of 57, 58, I think the ABV would be too high and it would just be overpowering. It's delicately balanced. One way or the other, you know, more than a couple of drops of water weakens it too much, and a couple of percent higher, and I think you'd lose the subtle sweetness that's there, and it would be too harsh. So they've done a really good job in kind of getting it just about spot on. Yeah,
absolutely. When I know you talked a little bit about getting in touch with them, but when they offered you this, did they offer you a selection of different whiskies, or did they just send you this one?
Like... Initially, he said, "I've potentially got a couple of casks, so I can send you some samples, and you'll be able to pick one out of that." But sort of after meeting him a couple of times, a few things had fallen through. There was a couple of casks I think they were intending on getting that they ended up didn't. One of them just wasn't good enough, and he kind of, I think because of the time scale of, we wanted it bottled for the finale, so they had to go through the whole process of getting it bottled, and it was just, the time scale was too tight. So it was a case of, well, I've got this. Are you happy to go with it? And I was like, mate, you're doing me a bottling with my logo on it. It could be pish for all I care. Just, whatever you want to do, I'm happy to go with it. That's absolutely fine. So, at one point it was sounding like I was going to have a row of samples and I'd be able to kind of maybe send some out or kind of do it live and pick the selection on air type thing. But yeah, that all kind of fell through by the wayside. But I am going to complain with this. It's an absolute beauty.
I've kind of been ignoring the chat a little bit, but I wanted to pick out a question that someone's just dropped in. There's two actually for you, so I'm putting you on a little bit, but we'll say.
Go for it. No.
Pink Skies, he was very interested about the Sweet Peat, and I told him in the chat that it was sold out, but he was asking what you think would be a comparable whiskey to this one that is available.
Right.
You might have to think about that one a bit.
Yeah. It's that sweetness that's the thing. And I do have an answer that comes to mind.
Okay.
The only problem is it's going to make me sound incredibly corporate.
Well, do you know what? I think you should do it anyway, because I didn't get you on here as a G&M rep, but I'm happy to let you go on brand briefly.
Yeah. The trouble is it's going to be sickeningly on brand, but it does have that sweetness, and there is a peatiness to it that's not too intense. And there are some people that are going to watch this and roll their eyes.
No, do it. You're authorised to do it.
Okay, I'm authorised. But this, so Benrommet Peat Smoke.
Ah, the peat smoke, of course.
Yeah, because the ppm is 47 ppm, but it doesn't taste like it, and there is a sweet, delicate edge to it. So I've put that on tastings and had people that don't really like peated whiskey, don't like Ardbegs, things like that, but do really enjoy that, because it's not intense, it's not full on. There is a sweetness in the middle of it. I think this is maybe slightly livelier, but again, the peat smoke is about an 8-year-old as well, so even age-wise, it's quite similar. Just trying to think of something else. Bruichladdich not quite there. There is something, and I can't get it in my head. I can't remember what it is, but there is definitely. I'm looking at the back like that's going to mean anything.
Inspiration.
Yeah, there is something that's a bit more unusual, and I tell you what, this also reminds me of is something like Macmira, Svens Rock.
Yeah.
So the smoky Macmira, that again is a delicate smokiness, and there is a sweetness on that. That is definitely worth looking at as well.
Awesome. Well, that leads on to the next question, which is from Whiskey Wednesday, who much earlier on, he said he was lucky enough to be at your gala event a couple of years ago.
Was that Phil?
Phil, yeah.
Ah,
yeah, I should have said that because, of course, Wednesday you had both of them there. Really.
I did, yeah. Well, that was at the time of the handover, I think, or it was just after when when Joe kind of like laid the gauntlet down for Phil to carry on his legacy.
Absolutely.
Don't ask me which one I prefer, because I'm not answering it.
Well, it's hard to tell actually, because they're both good in their own words. But Phil did tell me that he still to this day gets comments asking where the old guy was. You know, it's like I don't know how you missed that. It's 2 years ago, mate.
Yeah.
But, he's asking what particular bottles are you loving from G&M and Ben Romack at the moment. So another chance to be on brand.
Oh dear God, this is going to sound like a bloody like I'm paying you to be on the bloody channel. In terms of Ben Romack, I really like the organic, which is the least Ben Romack of the range, but it's completely unpeated and it's matured in virgin oak casks. So I really like it because I'm a big American whiskey drinker, and the organic for me is almost like a crossover for people that just drink Scotch and want to know what American whiskey's like, or the other way around. There's like lovely vanillin sweetness that you get from, say, a bourbon, and it's on the organic. The wood finish, Chateau Cizac, I really like. And weirdly, the Sassicaia, being a slightly dry red wine, is actually a little bit too dry for me, because I'm not a big dry red wine drinker, but I love the Cizac just because it's a little bit softer. I'm just trying to look at the range behind me. Those are probably my two standout ones personally. In terms of G&M bottlings, it's gone a bit more complicated now because we had a massive rebranding earlier on this year. So we've kind of integrated a lot of our previous ranges. So the cask strength and the private collection, everything is all now under the Connoisseur's Choice banner. And it's like really small batches that my territory is literally the north of England, and I get 6 bottles, 12 bottles, and that's it. So being able to try the stuff is almost non-existent because there's so little of it. But we have had one or two. So there was a Hermitage finished Kalila that was phenomenal, but like a red wine Kalila tends to work anyway. There was a Glen Scotia 26-year-old that was really special, and a 1989 Pulteney that was just phenomenal. You know, one of the great things about working for G&M is the quality and the range, and the stuff that they've got is just mind-blowing at times. And the chance to try some of these things, I am crossing my fingers that there's going to be a little sample bottle heading to me of our 50-year-old Kalila that we launched last week.
I saw that on social. A few people who got it. Luke got some, didn't he?
Yeah, that didn't have the Kalila in, so I've got that box. In fact, that box is here. So yeah, so I have a box here.
Yes.
So in that so this is what like influencers and some press and stuff get. So there's a whole load of miniatures of
not me, G&M. I didn't get any.
No, well, this is the thing. So this is not for me.
Yeah.
This is for me to give to a customer, so I can look at it. I can't open it. So yeah, Scapa 1988 in there, and then on the top bit is 2 little samples of Glenrothes 1974 and Inverleven 1985. In there, nice little 1cl bottle. I get to open the box, and then I get to give it to a customer, and I won't get to try any of it. But I have heard rumours that we might be getting a little 1cl of our 50-year-old Kalila in the post. I think there's some damaged boxes. And they've said, well, you've done well this year, so you can have some of that. So oldest Kalila ever bottled. I am quite looking forward to that, if it turns up, obviously. But yeah, you know, down at the whiskey show, I got to try the 2 1961 Longmorns that the twins had picked. So that was £30,000 for the 2 decanters together. To be fair, if I hadn't done the show, I'd probably never even see it in the flesh. But yeah, to get to try stuff like that and experience it's a definite perk of the job. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's really where it's at. Like, I mean, obviously, I speak to Joe quite a lot now, and he started working with Maxium, which is what I couldn't do his channel anymore. But now that's merged into Beam, Suntory, Edrington. Yeah,
their email addresses are about half a mile long, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I said to him, and he would never admit to it, but like, why they didn't just go ebs.com,
yeah.
I have no idea. But it's literally Edrington, Beam, Suntory, I don't know. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
I put it in my dress book, but
yeah, he did say that there was a woman in the office that would, like, she had a double-barreled surname as well, and like her full email address took about half a page on the screen.
I mean, like, it's cool. I guess part of the merger was the fact that Edgerton had to go first, but
Yeah.
I imagine eventually that Edgerton name would get swallowed up.
Yeah, I've no doubt. Yeah, because to be honest, outside of like the whiskey industry and the whiskey market, if you say Suntory, quite a few people will pick that up, mainly because of Lost in Translation and stuff like that. Beam, Jim Beam, yeah, get that. Edrington means nothing.
Yeah,
nobody knows who Edrington is. If you say, "Oh, they work for Edrington," don't know. Oh, Macallan. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. So yeah, it'll disappear at some point.
Yeah, and he's always got bottles of their range. Their range is quite impressive. It covers quite a span of distilleries. It's almost as good as Diageo's range, I think. But how much time do you get to spend up at the in Scotland?
Not a lot. We have team meetings every 3 months or so. So they used to be just up at our head office at Elgin, which is obviously a bit of a ball ache to get to. But we've started doing some sort of like on-site team meetings. So the last one we had was at Tullibardine, because we do a distribution for them. So we have, as well as Benromach, as well as the G&M brands, the Connoisseur's Choice and things like that, we have exclusive distribution for a few lines as well. So Bladnoch, Paul John, Lot Lomond and Glen Scotia, Tullibardine, even like Rock Rose Gin, we do exclusivity as well. So we're looking at doing kind of team meetings at these certain distilleries, because then it's a bit of staff training and you get to know the brand more and everything like that. So we've just picked up Rasay, and there is sort of, we've had conversations about whether we could potentially all go up there have a team meeting and also spend the day there and go and visit. Likewise, Lot Lomond we may well do on there, but
nice.
The induction with G&M was pretty intensive, but it was literally 3 weeks out on the field. But also there was a few days where it was Spaso Cooperage, visited Glen Turret because we had that at the time. Tullibardine, Lot Lomond. It was like kind of cramming all these distillery visits in, because this is how you learn. You know, it's you can talk about Benromach till the cows come home, but until you've been there and you've stood in the room and you've seen everything going on and you've talked to the guys, you can just kind of do it by rote. But it adds this extra dimension when you've been there in person and seen it. So we probably don't do as much as we would like to. But it's getting up there. It's costs. We've got a team. We've got Luke in the Midlands and Kat who's doing London. So to get everybody together for a national team meeting, it's a lot of costs. And we've got to fly up. And if you're flying in, well, I was supposed to be doing a tasting on the Isle of Man last week, and that didn't happen because of the wind. They cancelled all the flights. So if you want us to go up to Inverness for a team meeting, you've got to hope the weather's good.
Yeah, and it's difficult to get hold of Ralphie these days as well. He doesn't reply to his emails, so it's
No. I did try and contact him while I was doing the challenge, but just got completely blanked, and I don't really blame him. And I don't think he'll be at the tasting that I would do at the Isle of Man. So we might cross paths on one. He's one of the ones that I've never seen. I've met Murray and Dave Broom and all that lot, but Ralphie is an enigma that I've yet to cross paths with.
Do you know what's funny? Because I know a lot of reps now. I know at least 2, yourself and Joe, that used to be YouTubers. But like industry celebrities, I'm still too scared to go and speak to them when I see them at the shows. Because I feel like, I am a nobody, but I feel like a nobody in comparison to them. So I'll hello, yes, I do.
Yeah, and it's difficult because I suppose if you saw them in the street, you could probably be more confident, because you're just kind of out in the street in general public, and it's like, oh, I know you, and they're probably not going to get people going up to them going, I know who you are. Whereas if you're in the whiskey show and there's Dave Broom, 99% of the people in that room know who Dave Broom is, so he's probably getting it all the time. So yeah, I'd be the same. It was I've seen people like Broom in shows, and I've never gone up to speak to them. It's been more kind of in the work context of having conversations, and either he's come up or we've been in the same room and we're doing a tasting or a conference or whatever. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, mate. I'm just kind of like, well, he's not going to want to talk to me. I'm just some kind of, sales bloke for a whiskey company. So yeah, I'm sure he gets plenty of them coming up to him.
Yeah, it's just funny how that stuff like that works out, really, isn't it? I mean, I was in a festival in Birmingham recently, and I had my first ever person come up to me that I didn't know, never met before, and say that they see my channel. But it was really funny because it wasn't the guy who came up to me; it was his missus who came up to me. She said, "My fella is too nervous to come and speak to you." And I was like, "What? Come on, just come over, man."
Yeah.
I come over, and he's I follow him on Instagram now. I won't shout his name out just in case he doesn't want to be known. But he's this big bodybuilder fella, and he came up to me. He was like, "Oh, hello," and I was just like, "Bloody hell! Why on earth are you scared to come and say hello to me? Look at the size of you."
Yeah, it's weird. I've had it a couple of times, even like down at the show this time, where it's been kind of people that I've known kind of through the channel, and then like odd messages through Twitter and everything like that, and then they'll kind of walk up and go, "Are you a Dram a day?" And I'm like, "Who's asking?" Because it's now kind of that much time's gone now that I'm thinking people will have forgotten about it. With time's marched on and everything like that. It's like one of those things where you get to that stage and it's like, well, I could do another video, but it's probably too late. Everybody's kind of like moved on to the next thing. But yeah, there are still people watching it out there. There's still people picking it up. So it's a little buzz, little kind of like, oh, I'm famous. Oh, well, not really, but
The interesting thing that you did with your challenge, which you talked about a lot earlier, if you missed the start, by the way, do go back and check that out, was that you decided to cover one core whiskey from as many different distilleries as you could, and you wanted to get 366 if possible. But what that meant was that you covered a huge breadth of worldwide whiskies.
Yeah.
So, and this term that I picked up in the YouTube world is this term called evergreen video. Right? So those videos you made are relevant now as they were then, and will be relevant for the next 10 years, and people will keep searching for them.
Yeah.
So you might find yourself still getting views 10 years down the line.
Yeah, and I still get comments popping up every now and again. I get a notification from YouTube, and so about a month ago, I had a guy that was obviously an Irish whiskey drinker, and I don't know how he found the videos, but for the space of 2 weeks, literally every morning, I'd get a comment from him on one of my Irish whiskey videos. So he'd obviously found it and then gone through all the others, and he was really nice, and he was asking a couple of questions, and he kind of, I've had this one and I agree with this, and I've not had this one, so I'm going to try it. So yeah, like you say, there is still scope for people to just pick up on it 10 years down the line. And that was always the aim of doing the videos. Was, for me, it was less about the whiskey review bit. It was more the information about the distillery, and the intention to do the tasting was more to try and give people an idea of what it would taste like, and that was one thing that kind of evolved as I was doing the videos. Was I realized that I was putting too much of my personal taste into my reviews. So I was saying, like, this is not a very good whiskey because it tastes like X, Y, and Z, and it was because I didn't like that particular flavor profile.
Yeah,
that's not to say that somebody else wouldn't like it. I think you can say a whiskey is objectively bad without it being personal taste. There are certain whiskies out there that they're either bad or there is nothing to it. For example, White Walker, Hay Club, that sort of thing, where it is not a bad whiskey. It is just there is nothing there. There are others where it's just really unbalanced. But then there are whiskies where, so the example that always comes to mind is one I did, Borders Grain, which tasted really, really strongly of hazelnuts. Now, I don't like hazelnuts, so I'm like, I don't like this whiskey because I don't like the flavor of hazelnuts. However, if you do like hazelnuts, you're probably going to like this because it's well balanced. There's depth to it. There's complexity. It's interesting. It just happens to be that it's a flavor profile that I don't like, and therefore I don't really want any more of it. But if you do like that, you're probably really going to like it. So it's not a bad whiskey. It's just not for me. So I had to evolve that side of me talking about the whiskies. But the thing that always interested me was, I've always been more interested in the history behind the distillery and all the stuff that they don't necessarily talk about, or the production methods and what it is that they're doing and what it's matured in, and all the behind the scenes stuff that they don't put on a back label, or they fudge a little to make it sound more interesting than it actually is, or that they're doing one thing, or they've been doing this for 200 years and yet the distillery's only been operational for 50. It's all that sort of stuff that, if I'm doing tastings, it's the stuff that I like to bring out, because you can see people go, oh, I didn't know that. And what it tastes like is almost irrelevant to me, because I could tell you what this whiskey tastes like and you'll get something completely different, because you have different senses than I do. So, when I do tastings, I very rarely tell people what it tastes like. I just let them make their own minds up. I might read the back label, but even then, that's a marketing tool. So I don't want people to be sat there going, well, I don't taste that. I don't taste the honey and the malt that he's talking about. So is it me? Is there something wrong with me? Or I'm not enough of a whiskey expert to get all those flavors. So do you know what? I'm not even going to go down that route. Just, do you like it? That's the most important thing. Do you like it? Do you want to buy it? If you don't like it, that's fine. What is it that you don't like, so that you can look out for it in future whiskies? And what do you like, so you can kind of pick up on that? So yeah, it was, doing the videos is more, for me, the aim was to be more of an encyclopedia about whiskey brands, rather than what does this guy think of this particular whiskey? Do I agree with him? It just gave me another 5 minutes at the end to kind of, and it would be impossible for me to say, right, the house style of Glenmorangie is X, Y, and Z, and this is what it tastes like, because it's not as simple as that. They all taste different, but at least it was kind of giving people an indication of what, if they might like it or not.
Yeah.
And I've had some people that have gone, yeah, because of your video, I went out and got some and I really liked it. And actually, I had one guy that had never had American whiskey before, watched, I can't remember which one it was, but he watched one of my bourbon videos, sounded interesting, went out and tried it at a bar, really liked it, and now he's got a bourbon collection of like 10 bottles, and he's going out and finding even more. So that's worth it. That's the reason for doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Whiskey Throttle was asking as well, what's your most disliked nosing descriptor? Which is some good word in there.
Disliked nosing descriptor. So is that people have disliked me using it, or the nosing descriptor I've used that was because I hated it the most?
I'm going to go with the one that you hate the most, but
the one that so the one, and you could probably guess which one it is because it's kind of infamous. But when I did Fujikai, to be fair, it was more the palate, but the nose was more of a burnt rubber, but it was there on the palate. And I still trot this out at parties to impress people. You are at a junior school and it's summertime and you're doing PE, but because it's summertime, it's outdoors. So you're wearing those black plimp soles, the ones with the rubber soles?
Yeah.
So you've got changed. You've been running around a bit in the school hall, and then they say, it's really nice outside. Go out on the playing field and go around on the playing field for a bit. So you go outside, you run around on the playing field, you come back indoors. But in the meantime, one of the kids has thrown up on the floor and the caretaker, janitor, has put sawdust down, because that's what they used to do before they kind of swept it all up. But you didn't notice it, and you end up accidentally running through it.
Oh.
So you've got this black rubber plimsoll with grass stains and a bit of sick on it, and then you lick that, and that's basically the smell and taste of Fujikai.
Yeah, so I was hoping we were going to talk about this one because the irony of Fujikai, a lot of people know that I've covered Fujikai. They might not know as well that you have, and if
twice, I've done it twice. I've had it twice in my life because I ended up doing there's a podcast called This Is My Dram.
Yeah,
I guessed it on, and they got given a sample of Fujikai. So the day I went up and met them in Newcastle to do their show, they did a Fujikai tasting as well. So they wrote me in for that. So I've been lucky enough to have it twice in my life.
Awesome.
Yeah, lucky me.
But I think the funny thing about it was I did my video, and I said wet dog, plimsoll, burnt rubber, and then I went back and watched your video after I released it. and I didn't even do it on purpose, but I copied your tasting notes exactly.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show that it just really is awful. And
yeah,
like,
I must point out to the viewers that this is the third time that he said this and stressed that he hadn't seen my video and hadn't copied it. So methinks he doth protest too much.
no, it's maybe true, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely there. You know, I've had other people that have described baby sick and things like that. So there is a definite common theme all the way through. I've yet to find anybody write, say, scream out loud that there is anything positive about it. There's just nothing good about it at all.
No, I mean, I think I said in my video that I perhaps harshly, because I'd hate to think that somebody who made it was actually watching, but I have no idea on earth how that passed any tests at all to get out into a bottle.
The only thing I can think of is that they had a whole load of it and they didn't know what to do with it and they didn't want to throw it away, so they just went, look, just bottle it and send it overseas and just get rid of it, get it out of our warehouses, because you know it's that for somebody to go, yeah, that'll do, bottle that, justifies belief. I can't believe somebody would have done that.
Yeah, utterly insane. But what I always say to people as well is that because I've tried this Fujikai, I really struggle to say that I'm drinking a shit whiskey now, because that's just not true in comparison.
Yeah, we have context now.
yeah, exactly, and that's my minimum level baseline.
Yeah,
and even like Hay Club Clubman, which is a terrible whiskey, it beats it. And I'm trying to think, like, I'll put in if I can't finish a bottle, if I have to give it away, then that goes into the kind of bad whiskey category.
Yeah,
and that was like Hay Club Clubman, Johnny Walker Red Label. Obviously, I never had a bottle of the Fujikai, thank God. I did say if I ever did get a bottle of it, what I would do is bottle it into tiny samples and send it to as many people as wanted to try it. And if you didn't want to try it, I would make them try it.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think I said that on the video as well, which was, you know, it's actually because it's legendary. It's like, you know, everybody talks about it whether they've had it or not, and it's one of those where people that haven't had it kind of want to try it because they want to know if it's as bad as people say it is. And on the video, I said, do you know what? It's actually worth a bunch of you. If you've got like 10 friends and you're all into whiskey and you like trying different stuff and, you know, you bring a bottle around to each other's house, chip in. You know, it's like 50 quid a bottle. So everybody chip in a £5 and get a bottle of it and then just share it amongst yourselves around the table and just talk about it, because I think it would be hilarious. It would be so funny for a bunch of friends to sit and talk about that, and it would be memorable. So, you know, is that a bad thing? I don't think it is. I think it's kind of like, you know, that's putting a positive spin on it in that it creates conversation.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wouldn't say, well, I'm never going to touch it. It's just, if I am unfortunate enough to have it again, I want it with a group of people that are all trying it the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a really important thing for people to understand. And that's something that's been annoying me a lot, is when people say a perfectly acceptable, boring whiskey is terrible. And it's just not true. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I don't score whiskeys. Right? I talked about this on the podcast you were just talking about. They asked me why I don't score, and there's two reasons why I don't score. One is that my tastes changed so much since I started that I don't think I could possibly be consistent over years and years. And the second is that most people's scoring systems, out of 100, they consider 60% as a bad whiskey.
Yeah.
That's above average.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
50 is average. It's the definition of the word is, you know, average, the middle. So that's 50%. Whereas, as you say, you know, 60 is like, oh, it's got to be shit then. Well, no, because Fujikai would be 10 out of 100, something like that.
But it gets 56%.
Yeah.
Which is...
makes no sense.
So what's the point of having that first 50%? Get rid of it.
Yeah. No, I'm in full agreement. And that was why I didn't do scores with mine. And you know, you actually make a good point about the fact that you taste change. You know, as you said, you weren't into peated whiskies when you first sort of like came on board and tried the Ardmore, and now you really do. So any peated whiskey that you would have had early on in the days, you probably wouldn't have scored it as highly as you would now. So what do? Do you count that, or do you have to go back and re-review everything you've ever done, literally year on year? Because your tastes evolve. You might really like bourbon, and then all of a sudden you go off it a little bit. And you get through to peated whiskies, and then all of a sudden it's Irish. Well, that doesn't discount the scores that you were given at the time, and even depending on how you were feeling when you did that particular video as well.
Yeah.
It's good to go back. And I say to people when I'm doing tastings, if you've got 6 whiskies, the first one's always the hardest, because you've got no context, you've got nothing to work on, you're fresh, your palate is kind of like raw. So if you can, save a little bit of that first one, and then if you can get to, I don't know, if you start to get into peated whiskies, maybe go back to number 1 and give it another try, because you've got a couple before it to give some context. Because a lot of people are surprised that they either do or don't like the first one, and then half an hour later, when they've had a couple already and go back to it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, this is really good, or it wasn't as good as I thought it was, because compared to the other 2. So it's definitely worth doing that, but you can't do that with every whiskey you've ever had.
Absolutely. Whiskey Throttle was just asking if I've ever tried Hakushu. I'm just trying to remember if I've covered it on the channel. I think I've done the Distiller's Reserve on the channel. I have tried quite a few of the Hakushu range, but I think you managed to do a Hakushu as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I did the Hakushu 12. I'm just I'm having a look on your YouTube channel to see if it comes up. Hakushu Distiller's Reserve. There you go. Yeah, I've done it.
That's
a year ago, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, number 39, Whiskey Throttle. There you go.
Wow. Review number 39. I'm on 174 now, so it's quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I had the 12-year-old and loved it. Hakushu is, when people ask me about Japanese whiskies, Hakushu is pretty much my go-to. Okay. I prefer it to Yamazaki. I think it's more my taste. And if it's one of those where if somebody said, if you could pick a Japanese, it would be Hakushu 12. I absolutely love it. I've not had the Distillers though, so I don't know how that compares.
It's not as good as the 12, but they went out to replace the 12, right?
Well, yeah.
It's the downside of it is that it's just as expensive, and it has been for years. It's been out for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and it's been £45 in Sainsbury's ever since. Yeah. And the same bottle, I've checked, the same bottle's been sat there for like a year, and I've been waiting for it to be brought down in price, because I'm not spending £45 on that. No way.
No.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about before we wrap up was is what you're doing now on the channel, if however sporadic, starting with the blind tastings that you did.
Oh yeah,
which I thought brilliant, by the way, because there was I think it was like, maybe it wasn't the first one, but the second or third one where you had it bang on. And you were so happy with yourself.
Yeah, it was. So that was Andrew. That was Andrew O.P. Butler, so he'd sent me, I'm sure it was like 127 samples. And then at the end of it, he sent me this little pack of 12 samples, little brown medicine bottles, where I don't even know how he'd done it, but it was literally a label that was covered that I would then peel off to find out what it was. And he gave them to me saying, some of these you haven't had, some of these you have. And I wanted to see what your thoughts were, not knowing what it was. Where, it's when I did Grouse and Bells, I had this preconception. Mm-hmm. Grouse was one of the most memorable videos that I did for me, because it surprised me so much, because I was not expecting a lot from it at all. And it's not a great whiskey, but it was much better than I thought it was going to be, because I had such a low bar for it. So that was partly the reason for him giving me these blind ones, was A, to see if I could guess what it was, and B, there would be 1 or 2 where he was interested to see what my thoughts were going in blind rather than knowing what it was already. And yeah, I think it would be a completely different story if I did it now, because I had literally done a tasting every day for a year, or an equivalent of. And I had noticed that when I was doing videos after a month or 2 months, I was finding it harder to pick up the different flavors that were in there and then describe it. Whereas if you've done a lot of tastings in a row, it becomes easier to kind of pick up the differences and start to think about, maybe where it's from. Is this Scotch? Is this American? Well, it's not quite Scotch. It's not quite. Maybe it's Irish. Maybe it's Japanese. You can run yourself down alleys. You kind of convince yourself that, right, I think it's Irish. I think there's pot still in it, and it could be something like, you kind of like target yourself, and you go, right, I think it's Redbreast 15, and it turns out it's a Indian blend or something like that, completely random. But it was really good fun to do it, and to get close on a couple of them was kind of really satisfying, and it was quite hard to be happy about it without sounding really smug.
Yeah,
that's the only danger, is you're kind of like, oh, actually, I do know what I'm talking about. But yeah, some of it was definitely more luck than judgment.
Yeah, I think that's like I did a blind tasting with Roy Aquavite on my channel last year, and he sent me a pack with some envelopes, and the first part of it was just to put them in order of what you liked. So forget where it's from.
Yeah.
Just think, right, this is nice, I like this, and this was crap, I didn't like this. Did that, and then you have to leave it like that. So you have to stand by your choice, rather than worrying about what's expensive and whatever. It turned out that my favorite was the most expensive and the highest ABV, which is why it was my favorite. It's the high ABV, right? But it was I got it all wrong until I got the leaflet with the bottles on it, but not what drams were which bottle.
Yeah.
And then straight away I was like, right, now I know what brand that is. I know that that's that, and that's that.
Yeah.
So that's what I need. I can't do it completely blind, because like you said, I get sent on those wild goose chases. Someone sends me a Japanese whiskey that's been made to taste like a Scotch, and it does taste like a Scotch.
Yeah.
But as soon as I know a kind of area, or the only things I can really pick out is Speyside. I seem to be amazing at picking out Speysides, and obviously Isla's. The non-peated ones always throw me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need that. I need a little bit more information before I can start locking it down.
Yeah, it ain't easy, and I defy anybody really to kind of absolutely nail it every single time, because, as you say, there's so many whiskies from regions that don't taste like the region that they're from.
Yeah.
So you could be saying like, well, I'm absolutely convinced this is Scotch, and it turns out it's it's a bourbon, but it's just the way that they've done it and the way that they've chilled it or whatever. It just it completely bamboozles you. But that's the fun of it. I've done whiskey tastings, and I'm going to try and do more of them over the next year, where it's been like a world whiskey tasting. So you've got a Scotch, an English, an Indian, an Irish, a Japanese, a French, whatever. But you literally give everybody the tasting notes, or you say, right, these are the 6 countries that they're from. Guess what they are. But you stick all the bottles in a bag and just pour from that. And nobody's going to get 6 out of 6 ever, because as soon as you say, right, this is Paul John, this is Indian, people are instantly like, well, I'm not going to be too sure about this and all that lot. Stick it in a bag so they don't know what it is, and they've got to try and guess. They're looking at it completely differently, and they have a good laugh. They get surprised by it. They start to kind of think, oh, maybe I should give some other stuff a chance. Maybe Scotch isn't the be all and end all. So yeah, I would say do as many blind tastings as you possibly can, even if you just get your other half to pour a couple of drams for you and not tell you what's in them, or pour some drams and then get them to just mix the glasses up and put a little sticker on so that they know which one's which, and then like, go on then, smart ass, you tell me which ones they are, because it just gets you thinking about it differently, and just making things more interesting.
Absolutely. I guess before we wrap up, then I just want to talk about your Project 500. I know you've not been attacking that as with the same as your 366, but what's the idea behind that?
So the aim, I'd kind of done a bit of GCSE maths and gone, right, okay, I've done 366 in a year. What would I need to do to get to 500? Because that was a nice round number, and I raised the final total for the end of the challenge was 7,000, or like 7,025 quid or something like that. So I was like, well, it'd be nice to get some round numbers. So if I can get 500 jam videos and raise 10 grand, it's only another 3 grand. So it's not like I'm starting again. And I got some samples already left over because people had sent me more than I actually needed. So I'm going to try and get this without pulling the thing off, but I do have a box of that,
Okay.
So that's a load of samples that are still haven't been done, but would go towards it. So there's probably, I reckon there's about 30 in there. And then odds and sods that I've bought over the years on holiday and stuff like that. So, you know, there is enough to keep going. So the intention was, when I did the maths, it was like, right, I could get to 500 in another year. So if I did Burns Night 17 to Burns Night 18, I think it was about 2.5 videos per week, which was more than manageable because there was no way I was going to carry on doing a Dram a day again.
Yeah.
But if we could, you know, I was thinking, the thought was, if I do 2-3 videos a week, by the time I get to Burns Night 2018, I'll be at 500 to finish off on that. If I can get to 10 grand, even better, and then we can have another kind of finale and do another auction and all that lot. But the job got in the way. You know, life kind of took over, and it was one of those where it just became kind of too late to start it again, to have that kind of deadline. So I did do the odd video every now and again, and you know, I've got that's staring at me, making me feel guilty because these have been donated. And what I don't want people thinking is that I fucking sent him a load of videos and he's a load of drams, and he's just sat there. He's probably necked them all and got pissed on them, and then not done anything with it. So it's not fair for me to just sit on them and not do anything with it. So even if it was just a case of I do the videos as and when I can, you know, when I get some time and I can kind of get everything together, and even if I just pile through that lot and I get to 400 or 4 whatever. Just to get those out there, just so that the people that have sent me stuff have something in return, which is me talking about their dram and thanking them for it. But I think if I was to get to 500, I'd need to kind of ramp it up again, and I'd need to go, right, this is what I'm doing, because I would need more samples, and I'd need people to send me samples. They're probably not going to do it now because I haven't done anything for ages. So I need to get going again and kind of get the wheel turning so that people will go, oh, right, okay, he's definitely doing it. But never say never. You know, it's one of those things. It would be great to do it. It'd be fantastic to get to 10 grand. But it's up to me to do that. I've got to pull my finger out. That's not anybody else's fault but mine. So, you know, I need to kind of get myself into a habit of, you know, once, twice a week, getting a video out there, like yourself, and just kind of get back on the horse.
It's difficult to do, man. I mean, I made the step up to 2 videos a week in January in this year, and it's some weeks are better than others. I still managed to not miss it yet, and I really hope that I don't. But it's sometimes, some weeks it's tough. So I know, but yeah, I mean, I think that the people would rally behind you quicker than you think. You've got over 1,000 subscribers now, which is awesome. Because I think when you stopped, you maybe had like 600 or 700,
something like that. Yeah. I mean, I had a little help from I posted a video when my 3rd kid was born. That was a segment from a Robin Williams stand-up, and that basically blew up rather randomly. So that's definitely sent a few subscribers my way. So my fear is that I post a couple of videos and all the people that had subscribed went, oh, he does that. Oh, right. And then unsubscribe quite quickly and it drops down to about 700 again. But we'll see. You never know what happens.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, obviously, the one thing we always say is never do anything that's going to stress you out. So, you know, when you find time, I'm sure you will. But don't be afraid to put a video out every now and again.
No. I really miss it. That's the thing as well. Is you know, I miss doing it. It was great fun, and it's just the job, because it's a job that I love, because I love what I'm dealing with. It's kind of all encompassing. And it's kind of the job and then my family, and I haven't really got space for anything else because I'm really enjoying what I'm doing already. You know, when I was doing a Jam a day, that was my little bit of the day that I loved with my family, and then I had my day job, and you kind of like just got on with it. So it's the balance has shifted a little bit, and it's kind of made it harder. But you know, I know that there's people out there that have sent me samples. I know there's people out there that were watching it, and it seemed to be kind of helping people and having a bit of an effect. So, you know, the intention is there. As I say, I just need to kind of pull my finger out and get on with it. But, you know, you you guys are covering for me well enough while I'm away, so it's fine. You know, I know YouTube whiskey world is in good hands anyway. So
yeah, and it's one of those things when I mean when I decided to start, there was a handful of people going. You were going at the time. There was obviously the Scotch Test Dummies and Ralphie, of course, plus a smattering of others. Now there's hundreds of them from all over the world, and it's not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form, because some people believe that it's diluting it, but I don't think it is at all. Anybody can pick up a camera and talk about their passion for 5 to 10 minutes, and that's the whole point of YouTube. That's why it's called YouTube.
Yeah,
and I think it's brilliant. The more people that do it, the better. As long as people are committed to learning, that's the real hard bit about YouTube. I found is the learning behind it. You know, I started with just me and a camera, but I've had to do this whole learning process in the background of editing and search engine optimization and things like that to get to I forget what I'm on. 3,200 I hit today, which is I've had an absolutely incredible couple of weeks because of that White Walker video I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, we miss you, man. We miss you. So
yeah, well, I'm still here, mate. I'm still around. Don't worry about it. I'm always at the end of a email. So it's I'll be around about, and I'll dip my toe in every now and again.
Yeah, you should. But just to recap for the people who are ending, I think we'll dip off the stream now. But I've got Ben Bowers on at the moment who was doing a challenge for charity. I did get a super chat come through earlier, but if anybody at any point was willing to give a super chat or would like to donate to Ben's charity, there's a link in the description below. Not asking for the world. I think at the time you were saying £36.60 was the equivalent of 10p a dram.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if anybody wanted to give a tenner or a fiver or something like that, then dig deep and go and check out that link. Any donations towards the £10,000 would be amazing.
It would.
And like I said earlier, if any do go across, I'll probably check it later on in the month. But if any come from now, and it'll be really easy to see because you haven't had a donation for about a year now, I'll sift through those and maybe pick a winner out and maybe send them a little prize as a little added incentive.
I think that's called bribery, isn't it?
Well, I was just saying you're not meant to go on JustGiving to donate if you're receiving something in return, but don't tell them that.
No, I won't say anything. It's fine.
Yeah, just like to say again, thanks for you to coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and to finally cover this bottle. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Finish it.
Good to talk to you again, man, and nice to see you relatively sober as well.
Yeah, I do like to when I'm on the videos. It's funny you should say that because there's a policy in YouTube, which is that you shouldn't show any substance abuse.
Right.
And we get away with it because we're promoting the enjoyment of a luxury product.
Right.
Okay, that's the official line. But getting drunk on camera isn't cool. So they can kick you off for that. So it's that's a little tip for any other budding YouTubers out there is don't get wasted on camera.
Getting drunk ain't cool anyway. I'm 40 years old and that's well out of my system now. It's just not worth it.
No, the only times I get really, really merry are the free pour whiskey festivals that I go to see with you guys, and you end up going, just check out the whole range.
Yeah. That's what we're there for. Yeah. It's all delicious.
It is all delicious. Nearly all delicious anyway. I should say nearly all.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's good to see you again, man. And cheers for having me on. Anytime.
Yeah, okay. Thanks to everyone for watching. Stay on the line, Ben. When I click off, we'll have a little debrief. But thanks to everyone for watching. I'm sorry I didn't really keep up with the chat much today, but hopefully you enjoyed the conversation anyway. And make sure you check out my new video tomorrow. It should be a good one. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You just have to come back and check. But yeah, thanks everybody, and I'll catch you all later.
Cheers all. See you soon.